You are born in a burrow, deep beneath the forest floor, pressed against your siblings in complete darkness. The world above you is alive with sounds you don't understand yet. Birds calling, insects buzzing, leaves rustling in the wind. But down here, it's quiet and safe. Your mother dug this burrow weeks ago, scratching through dirt and roots until she found the perfect spot. She laid her eggs, covered them with soil, and then left. You will never see her again. She has her own life to worry about, her own territory to defend. Your survival was never her responsibility. Once those eggs were buried, the shell around you has been your entire universe for months, but now it feels tight, restrictive. Something inside you knows it's time. Your egg tooth, a small sharp projection on your snout, starts working against the shell. You push and scrape, wearing yourself out with the effort. Other eggs around you are doing the same thing. Some of your siblings break free faster than you do, wriggling out of their shells and immediately starting to dig upward through the packed earth. You are not far behind. Breaking through to the surface is exhausting work. The soil is heavy, and every inch upward takes everything you have. Your tiny claws scrape at the dirt, your body twisting and pushing as you follow the tunnel your siblings have started. Hours pass, maybe longer. Time doesn't mean much when you are this small and focused on one thing, reaching the light. When you finally push through the last layer of soil, the world hits you all at once. Sunlight blinds you temporarily, and the heat is overwhelming compared to the cool darkness of the burrow. Everything is massive. Trees stretch impossibly high above you, their trunks wider than anything you could have imagined. Leaves rustle overhead, casting moving shadows across the forest floor. The air is thick with scents you have no names for yet. Vegetation, moisture, other animals. You are about the size of a human thumb, maybe smaller. Your body is brown and mottled, perfect camouflage against the leaf litter and bark. Most importantly, you have something that will define the rest of your life, a frill. Right now, it is folded flat against your neck, barely noticeable. It looks like nothing more than loose skin, but it will become your greatest asset and your signature feature. Your siblings scatter immediately. There is no family reunion, no lingering together for warmth or protection. Each of you is on your own from the moment you surface. This is how it has to be. Resources are limited, and the forest is full of things that want to eat you. Staying together would only make you easier targets. Your first priority is finding water. Your tiny body dehydrates quickly in the heat, and the instinct to find moisture is overwhelming. You move carefully through the undergrowth, staying low and close to cover. Every shadow could hide a predator. Every sound could mean danger. You test the air with your tongue, gathering chemical information about your surroundings. It is a skill you were born with, but you are still learning to interpret what it tells you. You find a small puddle collected in the hollow of a fallen log. The water is warm and slightly stagnant, but it is exactly what you need. You drink carefully, alert for any movement around you. While you drink, a shadow passes overhead. You freeze instantly, pressing your body against the bark. A bird lands nearby, much larger than you, its head tilting as it searches the area. You stay perfectly still until it moves on. This is your first real lesson about survival. Movement draws attention, and attention can be deadly. Hunger comes next. Your body has used up all the nutrients from your egg, and now you need to find your first meal. You are a predator, built for hunting insects and small creatures, but right now you are barely larger than some of the things you are supposed to eat. A beetle crawls past, its shiny black shell catching the filtered sunlight. It is almost as big as your head, but instinct tells you to try. You approach slowly, calculating the distance and the angle of attack. The beetle is focused on whatever beetles focus on, paying no attention to you. You strike fast, your small jaws clamping down on its thorax. The beetle struggles, its legs kicking wildly, but your grip holds. It takes several minutes of wrestling, but eventually the beetle stops moving. You have caught your first prey. Eating it is harder than catching it. Your jaw muscles are still developing, and breaking through the beetle's hard shell takes time and effort. But the meat inside is exactly what your growing body needs. You eat every piece you can manage, leaving only the toughest parts of the shell behind. It is not a large meal, but it is enough to keep you going. The next few weeks are a constant cycle of hunting, hiding, and growing. You learn to read the forest around you. You discover which logs provide the best cover, which trees have bark that matches your coloration, and which areas are frequented by predators. Birds are your biggest threat during the day, but at night, different dangers emerge. Spiders, centipedes, and other nocturnal hunters patrol the forest floor. You have close calls. A spider nearly catches you one evening when you venture too far from cover. Its web is almost invisible in the dim light, and you walk straight into it. The sticky strands wrap around your legs, holding you fast as the spider approaches. You thrash wildly, using your claws to tear at the web. Just as the spider reaches you, you manage to break free, leaving pieces of shed skin behind in the silk. You run as fast as your small legs can carry you, not stopping until you find a deep crack in a tree trunk to hide in. As you grow, your hunting improves. You learn to be patient, to wait for the perfect moment to strike. You discover that different insects have different weaknesses. Ants are fast but predictable, always following the same trails. Flies are quick but land frequently to rest. Moths are nearly blind during the day and easy to surprise. Each successful hunt teaches you something new about being a predator. Your body changes as the weeks pass. You grow longer, stronger, more coordinated. Your frill develops too, though it still remains folded most of the time. You have no idea yet what it is truly capable of. Sometimes, when you are startled or excited, it flickers open slightly, but you have never hit a reason to use it fully. One afternoon, while hunting near a stream, you encounter another frilled lizard for the first time since hatching. It is slightly larger than you, probably a few weeks older. You both freeze when you see each other, unsure how to react. There is no recognition, no sense of kinship. You are competitors now, nothing more. The other lizard moves first, darting toward a cricket that was hopping between you. You react without thinking, lunging forward to intercept it. The collision sends both of you tumbling across the dirt. The cricket escapes in the confusion, but something more important has happened. For just a moment, as you faced off against that other lizard, your frill opened partially. It was an automatic response, an attempt to make yourself look bigger and more threatening. The other lizard's frill did the same. Neither of you understood what was happening, but you both backed down and went separate ways. That night, you find yourself thinking about the encounter. Something about the feeling of your frill opening stays with you. It felt powerful, even though you have no context for what power means yet. You try to make it happen again, focusing on the muscles you barely knew you had. After several attempts, you manage to open it slightly on command. It is exhausting, and you can only hold it for a few seconds, but it is progress. The forest is changing around you as the seasons shift. The rains come more frequently, turning the dry leaf litter into a soggy carpet that muffles sound but makes movement more difficult. New insects emerge with the moisture, providing fresh hunting opportunities. You catch your first grasshopper during a light rain, pinning it against a wet log as it tries to leap away. The extra protein fuels another growth spurt, and you start to feel less like prey and more like the predator you were meant to be. But with size comes new challenges. You are too big now for some of your old hiding spots, forcing you to find new territory. Other lizards, birds, and snakes all compete for the same resources you need. The forest that seemed endless when you first emerged now feels crowded and competitive. Once you realize you will need to expand your range to find new areas where you can hunt without constantly looking over your shoulder. You also start to notice something else: the urge to climb. Your claws are perfectly designed for gripping bark, and your tail provides excellent balance. The first time you scale a tree trunk, the world opens up in ways you never imagined. From even a few feet above the ground, you can see so much more: potential prey, approaching predators, new territories to explore. The canopy becomes your highway, allowing you to move through the forest with much greater speed and safety. Your frill continues to develop as you grow. You practice with it during quiet moments, learning to control the muscles that open and close it. Sometimes you catch your reflection in still water and are amazed by the transformation. When fully opened, your frill makes you look 3 times your actual size. It is an impressive display, even if you are the only one watching. Life as a frilled lizard might be rough, but there are other animals out there that have it way worse. Trust me, it's wild. Check out the video and see for yourself. Your territory expands as you grow bolder. The tree you claimed weeks ago is no longer enough. You need more hunting grounds, more places to hide, more options when predators come calling. But claiming new territory means crossing paths with others who have the same idea. That's when you meet him, a juvenile male, slightly smaller than you but with an attitude that suggests he doesn't care about the size difference. He's perched on a branch that you've been eyeing for days. It's perfect: good visibility, multiple escape routes, and positioned right above a fallen log where insects love to gather. You approach carefully, hoping he'll move on without confrontation. He doesn't. Instead, he turns to face you, his body language shifting from relaxed to defensive in seconds. What happens next changes everything you thought you knew about being a frilled lizard. His frill explodes open like an umbrella caught in a sudden gust of wind. The transformation is shocking. One moment he was just another lizard, the next he's a prehistoric monster with a collar of spiny flesh radiating from his neck. His mouth opens wide, revealing a bright yellow interior, and he hisses with a sound you didn't know lizards could make. Your response is automatic. Your own frill snaps open, matching his display. The feeling is incredible. Power coursing through muscles you barely knew existed. You feel bigger, stronger, more dangerous than you've ever felt before. Your mouth opens, mimicking his threat display, and you hiss back with equal intensity. For a moment, you both hold the pose, 2 miniature dragons facing off in the canopy. Then he does something unexpected. He turns sideways, making himself look even larger, and begins to sway back and forth. His frill ripples with the movement, creating the illusion of something much bigger than either of you actually are. You copy the motion instinctively, swaying in rhythm with him. It's like a dance, hypnotic and strange, but unmistakably effective. The standoff lasts for nearly a minute before he finally backs down. His frill slowly folds back against his neck, and he retreats along the branch without breaking eye contact. You hold your display until he's completely out of sight, then allow your own frill to collapse. The sudden deflation leaves you feeling smaller than before, but also oddly satisfied. You've won your first territorial dispute, and more importantly, you've discovered what you're truly capable of. Word spreads quickly in the forest. not through any conscious communication, but through the invisible network of scent marks, behavioral cues, and territorial boundaries that all animals understand. Other lizards start giving you a wider berth. Birds seem to hesitate a fraction longer before approaching your territory. Even some of the smaller snakes appear less confident when they encounter your scent trails. Your hunting improves dramatically with your expanded territory and newfound confidence. You develop techniques that would have been impossible when you were smaller and more cautious. You learn to use your frill not just for intimidation, but as a hunting tool. When stalking prey, you can open it partially to block escape routes, herding insects toward your waiting jaws. A grasshopper trying to leap away finds itself caught against the wall of your extended frill, with nowhere to go but straight into your mouth. You also discover that your frill works differently in different situations. Against other lizards, the full display is usually enough to settle disputes without actual combat. Against birds, you've learned to combine it with rapid head movements and loud hissing, creating a threat display that makes even much larger predators think twice. Against mammals, the occasional rat or small possum that wanders into your territory, you add tail lashing and aggressive charging to the mix. But the most important lesson comes when you encounter your first real predator as an adult. You're hunting near the stream when a snake appears, not one of the small, harmless species you've grown used to, but a genuine threat. It's thick-bodied and aggressive, with patterns that scream danger to every survival instinct you possess. It sees you before you can retreat, and suddenly you're facing the possibility of becoming prey again for the first time in months. Your frill opens automatically, but this time it's different. This isn't a territorial display or a hunting technique. This is pure survival. Your frill spreads wider than it ever has before, the skin stretching to its absolute limit. Your mouth gapes open, showing every tooth you have, and the hiss that comes out sounds like steam escaping from a pressure valve. You rise up on your hind legs, using your tail for balance, making yourself as tall and intimidating as possible. The snake pauses. It's clearly larger and stronger than you, but your display is working. You look like something much more dangerous than a simple lizard. You hold the pose, muscles trembling with the effort, praying that your bluff will work. The snake's tongue flicks out, testing the air, gathering information about this strange threat that has appeared in front of it. Then, just as your muscles are about to give out, the snake makes its decision. It turns away, sliding back into the undergrowth with what almost looks like wounded dignity. You hold your display until it's completely gone, then collapse against the nearest tree trunk, exhausted but alive. Your frill folds back slowly, and you realize you're shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline rush of having faced down something that could have easily killed you. The encounter changes how you see yourself and your place in the forest ecosystem. You're no longer just a small predator trying to avoid becoming prey. You're a force to be reckoned with, capable of standing your ground against threats that would have sent you running just weeks earlier. Your confidence grows with each successful display, each territorial victory, each predator that decides you're not worth the trouble. Your diet expands as your hunting skills improve, and your territory grows. You're no longer limited to insects and small arthropods. You catch your first small frog during a particularly successful hunting session, pinning it against a rock before it can escape into the water. The meat is different from insects, richer, more satisfying, and you find yourself seeking out more amphibian prey. You also learn to take advantage of opportunities that would have been impossible when you were smaller. A bird's nest, fallen during a storm, provides several eggs that make for excellent meals. A injured cricket, limping away from some other predator's failed attack, becomes easy prey for your quick reflexes. You even manage to catch a small mouse that ventures too close to your territory during daylight hours, though the struggle to subdue it leaves you exhausted. The seasons continue their cycle, and you adapt to each change. During dry periods, you learn to find moisture in unexpected places, dew collected on leaves, water trapped in tree hollows, even the body fluids of your prey. During wet seasons, you discover that rain creates hunting opportunities as insects and small animals seek shelter in predictable locations. Your frill becomes more than just a defensive tool, it becomes part of your identity. You practice with it during quiet moments, perfecting the speed of deployment, the angle of display, the coordination with your other threat behaviors. You learn to read other lizards' displays, understanding the subtle differences between territorial aggression, mating behavior, and genuine fear responses. You start to encounter more of your own species as your territory expands and your confidence grows. Some encounters end in displays and retreats, others in brief but intense combat. You win more often than you lose, your experience and territory giving you advantages over younger or less established lizards. Each victory reinforces your position in the local hierarchy, establishing you as a dominant presence in your section of forest. But dominance comes with responsibilities and challenges you didn't expect. Other animals start to test you more frequently, probing for weaknesses in your defenses. Younger lizards challenge your territorial boundaries regularly, forcing you to maintain constant vigilance. Even some birds seem to have figured out that your frill display, while impressive, is mostly bluff, and they've started calling it more often than before. The forest around you is changing too. New trees grow while old ones fall, altering the landscape you've learned to navigate. Human activity at the forest's edges creates both opportunities and threats. New insects attracted to lights and garbage, but also new predators and disturbances you've never encountered before. You adapt as you always have, learning and adjusting your behavior to match the evolving challenges of your environment. Your body continues to develop as you approach full adult size. Your muscles are stronger, your reflexes faster, your frill more impressive than ever. You're no longer the tiny, vulnerable hatchling that emerged from the burrow months ago. You've become exactly what you were meant to be, a master of intimidation, a skilled predator, and a survivor in one of nature's most competitive environments. Your size brings new challenges you didn't anticipate. The branch that once supported you easily now bends under your weight, forcing you to recalculate every move through the canopy. Your hunting grounds, once vast and full of opportunity, start to feel constrained. You need more territory, bigger prey, and most importantly, you need to establish yourself as something more than just another lizard in the forest. That's when you encounter her for the first time, a fully grown female, easily twice your size, perched on what you had considered your favorite hunting branch. She's magnificent in a way that makes your previous territorial victories seem insignificant. Her frill, even at rest, is massive compared to yours. Her body is thick with muscle, her coloration deeper and more vibrant than any lizard you've seen before. She's everything you aspire to become, and she's completely ignoring your existence. You approach cautiously. It's not sure if this is a territorial challenge or something else entirely. She doesn't move as you get closer, doesn't even acknowledge your presence. It's only when you're within striking distance that she finally turns to look at you. Her eyes are ancient, calculating, completely unimpressed by whatever threat you think you're presenting. Your frill opens automatically, the response you've relied on for months now. She watches with what can only be described as amusement as you go through your entire threat display, the gaping mouth, the hissing, the swaying motion that has worked so well against other lizards. When you're finished, she does something that stops you cold. She yawns. It's not a threat display. It's not territorial aggression. It's pure, dismissive boredom. Your entire repertoire of intimidation techniques has just been reduced to background noise by a creature who's seen it all before. She turns away from you and goes back to whatever she was doing, leaving you standing there with your frill still half open, feeling smaller than you have in months. But something about the encounter stays with you. It wasn't just her size or her dismissive attitude, it was her presence. She moved through the forest like she owned it, like every tree, every branch, every hunting ground existed for her convenience. You want that confidence, that unshakable dominance. You want to be her. The realization hits you slowly over the following days. You're still growing. Your body hasn't reached its full potential yet, and neither has your frill. The displays that work against juveniles and smaller adults are just the beginning of what you're capable of. You start pushing yourself harder, testing the limits of what your body can do. Your hunting becomes more ambitious. You start targeting prey that would have been impossible just weeks earlier. Larger insects, small birds that venture too close to your territory, even young snakes that haven't learned to fear your species yet. Each successful hunt builds your confidence and teaches you something new about your capabilities. You also start exploring areas of the forest you've never ventured into before, the deeper sections where older, more established lizards hold territory. It's dangerous. You're clearly outmatched by most of the residents, but it's also educational. You watch how the truly dominant lizards behave, how they move, how they use their size and experience to control their environment. One evening, while observing from a safe distance, you witness something that changes your understanding of what it means to be a frilled lizard. Two massive males are engaged in a territorial dispute over a prime section of canopy. Their displays are beyond anything you've seen before. Frills spread so wide they seem to block out the sky, hisses so loud they echo through the forest, movements so aggressive they shake entire branches. But it's not just the scale of their confrontation that impresses you, it's the subtlety. Each lizard is reading micro-expressions in the other's posture, tiny shifts in frill position, slight changes in the intensity of their hissing. They're communicating in a language you're only beginning to understand, negotiating boundaries and establishing dominance through displays so complex they might as well be diplomacy. The larger male wins, but not through brute force. His opponent backs down after recognizing something in his rival's display that you can't quite identify yet. The winner doesn't pursue or press his advantage. He simply returns to his territorial activities as if nothing happened. The loser retreats with his dignity intact, already scanning for other opportunities. You realize you've been thinking about territorial disputes all wrong. They're not just about intimidation or size. They're about reputation, experience, and understanding the complex social dynamics of your species. Your victories against smaller lizards have taught you the basics, but you're still missing the advanced techniques that separate true dominance from temporary bullies. Your territory expands again as you grow bolder, but this time you're more strategic about it. Instead of simply claiming every available branch, you focus on key locations, hunting grounds with consistent prey, resting spots with good visibility, territorial markers that send clear messages about your boundaries. You're starting to think like a mature lizard rather than an opportunistic juvenile. The forest responds to your growing presence. Other animals adjust their behavior around your territory, creating ripple effects you never anticipated. Birds alter their flight patterns to avoid your hunting areas. Small mammals change their foraging routes to stay clear of your scent markers. Even insects seem to respond to the chemical signals you leave behind, though you're not sure if that's helping or hurting your hunting success. Your encounters with other lizards become more sophisticated. You learn to read the subtle differences between a serious, territorial challenge and mere posturing. You develop your own techniques for avoiding unnecessary confrontations while still maintaining your boundaries. Sometimes a partial frill display is enough to send a message. Sometimes a strategic retreat prevents a fight you're not ready for yet. You also start to understand the seasonal patterns that govern your species' behavior. During certain times of year, territorial disputes become more frequent and intense. Other periods see increased movement as lizards relocate to follow prey migrations or seek better shelter. You adjust your own activities to take advantage of these patterns, expanding during quiet periods and consolidating during times of increased competition. Your diet continues to evolve as you master new hunting techniques. You learn to coordinate your frill displays with your strikes, using the distraction of your threat posture to mask your actual attack. A cricket focused on your impressive frill display doesn't notice your tongue shooting out until it's too late. A small frog mesmerized by your swaying motion fails to detect your approach until you're close enough to pounce. You also discover that different prey species respond differently to your displays. Some insects are genuinely intimidated and try to flee, making them easier to chase down. Others seem attracted to the movement and color, actually approaching closer than they would to a normal lizard. You learn to tailor your hunting strategy to each type of prey, maximizing your success rate while minimizing energy expenditure. The rains come again, heavier this time, transforming the forest floor into a maze of temporary streams and muddy pools. The increased moisture brings out prey species you haven't seen in months, but it also creates new challenges. Your scent markers wash away, forcing you to reestablish territorial boundaries. The wet bark makes climbing more treacherous, requiring greater caution in your movements through the canopy. But the rain also provides opportunities. Insects seeking shelter cluster in predictable locations, making hunting easier despite the challenging conditions. The sound of raindrops masks your approach, allowing you to get closer to prey than usual. Even your frill displays are more effective in the humid air. The moisture makes the colors more vibrant and the movements more dramatic. You start to notice changes in your own behavior that you don't fully understand. Certain scents in the air trigger responses you've never experienced before. You find yourself drawn to areas of the forest you've previously avoided, following chemical trails that lead nowhere obvious. Your territorial marking becomes more frequent and more complex, as if you're trying to communicate something beyond simple boundary claims. Other lizards respond to these changes too. Some avoid you more completely than before, while others seem more willing to approach. The patterns don't make sense to you yet, but you follow your instincts anyway, trusting that your body knows what it's doing even when your mind doesn't understand. Your frill reaches new levels of development as you approach full maturity. The skin is thicker now, more durable, capable of supporting displays that would have exhausted you months earlier. The colors are more vivid, the patterns more defined. When fully extended, your frill creates a wall of intimidating flesh that transforms your entire appearance from lizard to dragon. You practice with it constantly now, perfecting not just the basic threat display, but the subtle variations that convey different messages. A quick flash warns off minor intruders without escalating to full confrontation. A slow, deliberate opening suggests serious intent while still leaving room for negotiation. A sudden explosion into full display accompanied by aggressive movement sends an unmistakable message about your willingness to fight. The forest hierarchy becomes clearer as you learn to read the complex social signals your species uses. You're no longer fighting for every scrap of territory. You're negotiating for position in a community structure. You're only beginning to comprehend. Your growing size and experience earn you respect from some lizards while attracting challenges from others seeking to test your resolve. But there's something else changing too, something that goes beyond simple territorial dominance. The scents that have been drawing your attention become more compelling, more urgent. Your marking behavior intensifies, and you find yourself spending more time in areas where other lizards have left their own chemical signatures. The forest is trying to tell you something, and your body is responding to messages you don't consciously understand yet. Your hunting takes on a different quality as well. You're no longer just feeding yourself, you're building reserves, preparing for something your instincts know is coming, even if your conscious mind hasn't figured it out yet. Prey that would have satisfied you completely just weeks ago now feels insufficient. You need more protein, more energy, more of everything. The changes accelerate as the seasons shift again. Your body feels different, more powerful, but also more restless. The territory you've worked so hard to establish suddenly feels constraining rather than protective. There are places you need to go, things you need to do, but the urgency is instinctual rather than rational. Then one morning, everything becomes clear. The scent hits you like a physical force, cutting through every other sensation in the forest. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced, compelling, intoxicating, absolutely impossible to ignore. Your frill opens involuntarily, responding to chemical signals that bypass your conscious control entirely. Your body knows exactly what this means, even if your mind is still catching up. The scent is coming from the direction of the deep forest, from territories you've never dared explore. But fear is no longer relevant. This is bigger than territorial disputes or hunting success or even survival. This is the reason your species exists, the drive that has shaped every aspect of your development since the moment you hatched. You abandon the scent trail deeper into the forest than you've ever ventured, your carefully established territory without a second thought. Following other lizards are moving too, all heading in the same direction, all responding to the same irresistible call. The forest is alive with movement, with purpose, with anticipation. Your frill remains partially extended as you travel, not as a threat display, but as a signal to others of your own species. You're broadcasting your readiness, your maturity, your worthiness to participate in whatever is about to happen. The other lizards respond with their own signals, creating a complex network of chemical and visual communication that guides everyone toward the same destination. The journey takes hours, leading you through sections of forest you've never seen before. Ancient trees with trunks so massive they create their own ecosystems. Clearings where the canopy opens to reveal sky you'd forgotten existed. Streams that cut through the landscape like silver threads, connecting distant territories in ways you never imagined. But the most amazing discovery is the other lizards. As you travel deeper into the forest, you encounter more and more of your species, all following the same compulsion you feel. They're every size, every age, every level of development. Some are clearly veterans of this journey, moving with confidence through terrain they know well. Others, like you, are experiencing this for the first time. their movements uncertain but determined. The scent grows stronger as you travel, pulling you forward with increasing urgency. Your body responds with changes you don't fully understand. Your frill becomes more sensitive, your coloration more vivid, your movements more fluid and purposeful. You're transforming into something you've never been before, preparing for a chapter of your life that will redefine everything you thought you knew about being a frilled lizard. As you follow the scent deeper into the forest, the landscape changes in ways that make your previous territory seem like a small backyard. Massive trees tower overhead, their canopies so thick that sunlight barely reaches the ground. Vines hang like curtains, creating natural corridors that channel the movement of dozens of lizards, all heading in the same direction. The air itself feels different here, thicker, more alive with chemical messages you're only beginning to decode. You pass other frilled lizards regularly now, and each encounter teaches you something new about your species' social complexity. A massive male crosses your path, his frill partially extended in what you now recognize as a traveling display. He's not threatening you, he's announcing his presence, his maturity, his right to be here. You respond with your own partial display, and he acknowledges it with a brief head bob before continuing on his way. The interactions fascinate you. There's an entire language of subtle movements, frill positions, and scent markers that you've never fully understood before. A quick frill flutter means something different from a slow extension. The angle of your head when passing another lizard conveys respect, challenge, or simple acknowledgement depending on the circumstances. You're learning as you travel, picking up the social protocols that govern your species during these journeys. Hours pass, and the scent grows stronger with each step. Your body responds involuntarily now. Your frill opens and closes in rhythm with your breathing. Your coloration shifts to deeper, more vibrant hues, and your movements become more fluid and purposeful. You feel like you're becoming more yourself than you've ever been, as if everything up until now was just preparation for this moment. Then you see her again, the massive female from weeks ago, the one who dismissed your threat display with a yawn. But she's different now. Her movements are deliberate, hypnotic, and her scent is part of the intoxicating mixture that's been drawing you forward. She's not just another territorial competitor anymore. She's something far more significant. She notices you this time, really notices you. Her eyes lock onto yours, and instead of dismissive boredom, you see evaluation. She's measuring you, assessing whether you're worthy of her attention. Your frill opens automatically, but this time it's not a threat display. It's an advertisement, a declaration of your fitness and maturity. Her response is immediate and devastating. Her own frill explodes open, revealing colors and patterns you never imagined possible. The display is massive, intricate, absolutely stunning in its complexity. But it's not aggressive. It's seductive, inviting, a challenge of an entirely different kind. She's not trying to drive you away anymore. She's testing whether you're ready for what comes next. You hold your display, muscles trembling with the effort, but refusing to back down. This is what you've been growing toward, what your body has been preparing for through months of hunting, territorial battles, and gradual maturation. You're no longer the small, inexperienced lizard she ignored before. You've become something worth her consideration. Other males arrive, drawn by the same scent that brought you here. Some are larger than you, others smaller, but all are displaying with the same desperate intensity. The forest fills with the sound of rustling frills and competitive hissing as dozens of males vie for her attention. It's chaos, but organized chaos. There are rules here, protocols that prevent the competition from devolving into actual combat. She moves between the displaying males like a queen, reviewing her army. Each lizard performs his most impressive threat display, but the meaning has transformed completely. What once communicated aggression now advertises genetic fitness, territorial success, and reproductive worthiness. Your frill aches from the sustained display, but you maintain it, knowing that any sign of weakness will eliminate you from consideration. The competition is fierce, but strangely civilized. When two males' displays begin to overlap, they adjust their positions rather than fighting. When someone clearly outclasses another, the lesser male withdraws gracefully rather than persisting in futile competition. Everyone understands that this isn't about dominance in the traditional sense. It's about proving worthy of selection by the most impressive female any of you have ever encountered. Hours pass in this strange courtship ritual. Some males give up and retreat, their displays faltering as exhaustion sets in. Others arrive to take their place, adding fresh energy to the competition. You hold your position through sheer determination, your frill locked in full extension despite the burning in your muscles. This is the most important moment of your life, and you refuse to fail. Then she makes her choice. Not you, not yet, but a massive male whose display puts even your best efforts to shame. His frill is enormous, his coloration perfect, his movements fluid and confident. You watch as she approaches him, her own display shifting to complement his. The ritual that follows is brief, but unmistakably significant, a dance of compatibility that seals their pairing. But she's not done. After the first male retreats, exhausted but successful, she turns her attention back to the remaining competitors. Your muscles scream in protest, but you maintain your display, hoping desperately that your persistence will be rewarded. Other males around you are faltering, their frills drooping as fatigue sets in. This time, when she approaches, her eyes settle on you. The evaluation is longer now, more thorough. She circles you slowly, examining your display from every angle. Your frill is smaller than the previous male's, but you've maintained it longer than most. Your coloration might not be as vivid, but your persistence has been remarkable. You represent something different, not the biggest or strongest, but perhaps the most determined. Her decision comes as a subtle shift in posture, a change in her scent that your body recognizes before your mind processes it. She's chosen you. The relief is overwhelming, but there's no time to celebrate. The ritual that follows requires all your remaining energy, a complex dance of approach and retreat that tests your coordination, stamina, and ability to read her subtle signals. Success brings exhaustion like nothing you've ever experienced. Your frill finally collapses, the muscles too spent to maintain even a partial display. Your body feels hollow, drained of everything that made the journey possible. But there's also satisfaction, a deep sense of completion that goes beyond simple physical accomplishment. The gathering begins to disperse as other pairings conclude and unsuccessful males retreat to their territories. You find yourself alone with your chosen female for the first time, both of you too exhausted for anything but rest. She settles onto a broad branch, and you position yourself nearby, close enough to maintain the connection, but far enough to respect her space. Recovery takes days. Your body needs time to rebuild the energy reserves you depleted during the marathon display session. Your frill remains folded, the muscles too tender for even minor threat displays. But gradually, your strength returns, and with it comes a new understanding of your place in the forest ecosystem. The journey back to familiar territory feels different from the trip out. You're no longer driven by overwhelming instinct. You're making conscious choices about where to go and what to do next. The scent trails that pulled you into the deep forest have faded, replaced by more familiar markers that guide you toward home. But you're not the same lizard that left your territory days ago. The experience has changed something fundamental about how you see yourself and your species. You understand now that individual territorial disputes are just small chapters in a much larger story. The forest isn't just a collection of hunting grounds and hiding spots. It's a complex network of relationships, territories, and seasonal migrations that connect every member of your species. Your territory welcomes you back, but it too feels different. The boundaries you fought so hard to establish seem less critical now. You maintain them, but without the desperate intensity of before. There are other considerations now, other priorities that balance against simple territorial control. Your hunting returns to normal patterns, but with greater efficiency. The experience of sustaining a marathon display has taught you about energy management in ways that no amount of regular hunting could match. You're more selective about your prey, more strategic about when and where you hunt. Every calorie matters more than it used to. Other lizards in your area treat you differently too. Word spreads somehow, through scent markers, behavioral cues, or simple observation, that you've participated in the deep forest gathering. Younger males show more respect when crossing your territory. Established adults acknowledge your presence with subtle displays that recognize your new status. The seasonal changes continue around you, but you're more aware now of how they connect to the larger rhythms of your species. Certain weather patterns trigger migration instincts. Specific combinations of temperature and humidity affect territorial behavior. The forest isn't just changing randomly, it's following patterns that have shaped your species for countless generations. Your frill recovers fully from its marathon performance, but it's different now too. The muscles are stronger, more responsive. The skin has a different texture, more resilient. Most importantly, your control has improved dramatically. You can produce displays that would have been impossible before the gathering. Subtle variations in color, precise adjustments in angle and tension, complex combinations of movement and posture. These new abilities serve you well in territorial negotiations. Conflicts that might have escalated to full combat before can now be resolved with nuanced displays that communicate exact levels of determination, territorial commitment, and willingness to fight. You're speaking a more sophisticated version of your species' visual language. The forest floor beneath your territory changes with the seasons. New plants emerge while others die back, creating different hunting opportunities and shelter options. You adapt your patrol routes and hunting strategies to match these changes, but now you also consider how they might affect future migrations or gatherings. Your thinking has become more long-term, more strategic. You encounter the massive female again, months later, in a different part of the forest. The intense attraction that drove your journey has faded to something more subtle, but still significant. She acknowledges your presence with a brief display that confirms the connection you established, but there's no urgency now. The timing isn't right for another gathering. Your size continues to increase gradually as you approach full maturity. Each molt reveals a slightly larger, more impressive lizard. Your territory expands accordingly, but the growth is strategic rather than opportunistic. You claim areas that will serve multiple purposes: hunting during dry seasons, shelter during storms, display areas for future competitions. The hierarchy among local lizards becomes clearer as you learn to read the subtle signs of status and experience. Some lizards command respect through sheer size. others through territorial holdings, still others through their success in gatherings. You're building your own reputation across multiple categories, establishing yourself as a well-rounded presence rather than a specialist in any single area. Younger lizards start to appear in your territory more frequently, not as challenges, but as observers. They watch your hunting techniques, your territorial displays, your responses to various threats. You realize you've become what the massive adults were to you when you first emerged, a model of successful survival and adaptation. Your diet continues to diversify as your hunting skills reach their peak. You can now catch prey that would have been impossible targets when you were smaller. A young snake that ventures into your territory becomes a substantial meal after a brief but intense struggle. Small birds that underestimate your reach discover their mistake too late. Even some mammals fall victim to your improved hunting abilities. The forest around you is constantly changing, but you've learned to see the patterns within the chaos. Seasonal migrations bring new prey species through your territory at predictable times. Weather patterns create temporary hunting opportunities that experienced lizards know to exploit. Even human activity at the forest edges follows rhythms that can be anticipated and adapted to. Your frill has become your signature, as distinctive and recognizable as a fingerprint. Other lizards can identify you from a distance based on the specific patterns and colors of your display. This recognition brings both advantages and responsibilities. You can no longer rely on anonymity when moving through unfamiliar territory. The scent marking that once seemed like simple territorial maintenance now reveals itself as a complex communication system. You're not just claiming boundaries, you're broadcasting information about your health, your recent hunting success, your participation in gatherings, even your mood and intentions. Other lizards read these chemical messages and adjust their behavior accordingly. Your movements through the canopy become more confident as your size and experience increase. Branches that once challenged your balance now support you easily. You can navigate through the most complex tangles of vines and leaves with fluid grace, using your tail and frill for balance in ways that maximize both speed and stealth. The forest predator-prey relationships become more apparent as you observe from your elevated position in the hierarchy. You're no longer focused solely on avoiding predators and catching prey. You're beginning to understand how your actions affect the entire ecosystem. Your hunting success influences insect populations, which affects plant pollination, which changes the forest structure over time. Other members of your species treat you as an established presence now, rather than an upstart competitor. When territorial disputes arise, they're often resolved through displays rather than combat. When hunting areas overlap, the resolution usually favors the lizard with better established claims rather than simply the larger or more aggressive one. Your territory has become a showcase of successful adaptation. Other lizards study your scent markers, your hunting grounds, your display areas, trying to understand what makes your approach so effective. Some attempt to copy your techniques, while others develop countermeasures to compete more effectively against your established advantages. The deep forest calls to you again as another seasonal cycle approaches, but this time you're prepared. You know what to expect, how to conserve energy for the journey, what displays will be most effective. The nervous excitement of your first gathering has been replaced by confident anticipation. You're no longer proving you belong. You're demonstrating your continued worthiness. But something unexpected happens as you prepare for the journey. A young female appears at the edge of your territory, her behavior indicating she's following the same instinctual call you feel. But instead of continuing toward the deep forest, she lingers, watching you with interest that goes beyond simple curiosity. Her frill opens in a display that's unmistakably directed at you. It's smaller than the massive females from your first gathering, but it's also more focused, more personal. She's not broadcasting to dozens of competing males. She's communicating directly with you, testing whether you're interested in a different kind of pairing. Your response comes automatically, your frill opening in a display that matches hers in intensity, if not in size. But there's something different about this interaction, something that suggests possibilities beyond the marathon competitions of the deep forest gatherings. This feels more intimate, more sustainable, more like the beginning of something long term rather than a brief seasonal ritual. The forest around you continues its ancient rhythms, but you're beginning to understand that your story within it is far from over. Each season brings new challenges, new opportunities, new relationships to navigate. You've mastered the basic requirements of survival and established yourself as a successful adult. But the most complex chapters of your life as a frilled lizard may still lie ahead. The interaction with the young female develops into something you've never experienced before. Unlike the chaotic competition of the deep forest gathering, this is a quiet negotiation between two individuals who've chosen each other deliberately. Her displays are subtle, testing your responses, while yours become more refined, more personal. You're not performing for an audience of competitors. You're communicating directly with someone who's already shown interest. Days pass in this careful dance of approach and retreat. She establishes a temporary territory adjacent to yours, close enough to maintain contact, but separate enough to preserve both of your established boundaries. The arrangement feels natural, like a partnership rather than a conquest. Your hunting patterns adjust to accommodate her presence, and hers do the same for you. The collaboration proves more beneficial than you expected. Two sets of eyes spot prey and predators more effectively than one. When you flush insects from one area, she's positioned to catch the ones that escape your initial strike. When she hunts near the stream, you patrol the canopy above, watching for aerial threats. It's a level of cooperation you didn't know your species was capable of. Your combined territorial displays become formidable deterrents to other lizards. When a young male tests your boundaries, both frills open simultaneously, creating a wall of intimidation that sends him retreating without the need for actual confrontation. The message is clear. This area is protected by two experienced adults working in coordination, but the partnership brings unexpected complications. Other established lizards view your cooperation with suspicion, uncertain how to respond to this deviation from normal territorial behavior. Some attempt to separate you by challenging one while the other is occupied elsewhere. Others simply avoid the entire area, treating your combined territory as too risky to approach. The seasonal rhythms continue, but now you experience them as part of a pair. When prey becomes scarce during dry periods, you coordinate your hunting efforts more efficiently. When storms force you to seek shelter, you find protected spaces large enough for both of you. The forest's challenges become more manageable when shared with someone who understands your responses and complements your abilities. Your frill displays evolve to include new variations designed for close-range communication with your partner. A brief flicker means potential prey spotted. A slow, partial opening suggests possible threat detected. A rapid series of small extensions indicates ready to move or follow my lead. You're developing a private language that allows for silent coordination during hunts and territorial patrols. The arrangement proves stable through multiple seasonal changes. Your territories merge gradually, the boundaries between them becoming less distinct as you learn to share resources rather than compete for them. What started as adjacent holdings becomes a single, larger territory managed by two complementary hunters. Other pairs begin to form in the surrounding forest, perhaps inspired by your success or driven by similar instincts. The social structure of your species becomes more complex as these partnerships establish themselves alongside traditional solitary territories. Some pairs thrive like yours, while others dissolve due to incompatible hunting styles or territorial disputes. Your hunting efficiency reaches new levels as you perfect coordinated techniques. A grasshopper escaping your initial strike runs directly into your partner's waiting jaws. A cricket hiding from her approach reveals itself when you circle around from the opposite direction. You're not just sharing territory, you're actively hunting as a team. The deep forest calls again as another gathering season approaches, but this time the decision is more complicated. Your partner feels the same instinctual pull, but maintaining your partnership means making choices about how to respond. Do you travel together, separately? Do you participate in the traditional competitions or focus on strengthening your existing bond? You choose to travel together, but the journey reveals new challenges. Other lizards on the migration routes don't know how to interpret a traveling pair. Some males view your partner as available despite your obvious association. Some females see you as a potential alternative to the deep forest competitions. The social protocols you've learned don't account for established partnerships participating in seasonal gatherings. The gathering itself becomes a different experience when you're not desperately competing for attention. You observe the ritual displays with new understanding, seeing them as one option among many rather than the only path to reproductive success. Your partner participates selectively, engaging with some competitors while clearly maintaining her primary association with you. The return journey solidifies your partnership in ways the original pairing couldn't. You've navigated the most socially complex situation your species encounters while maintaining your bond. Other lizards now recognize you as an established pair, adjusting their territorial behavior accordingly. You've created something unprecedented in your local forest community. Your territory continues expanding as your coordinated hunting and defense prove superior to solitary efforts. Younger lizards learn by observing your techniques, sometimes copying your coordination methods with their own partners. You've inadvertently become teachers, demonstrating new possibilities for your species' social organization. The seasons cycle through their familiar patterns, but your experience of them has fundamentally changed. Challenges that once required individual solutions now benefit from collaborative approaches. Resources that might have been contested become shared assets. The forest feels less like a battleground and more like a managed ecosystem where cooperation can triumph over pure competition. Your frill displays become more sophisticated as you develop techniques for three-way communication, signals that convey information to your partner while simultaneously addressing outside threats or opportunities. A predator approaching your territory faces not just one impressive display, but two coordinated ones that suggest a unified, formidable defense. The partnership affects your individual development in unexpected ways. Skills you might never have developed alone emerge through your interactions with your partner. Hunting techniques she learned in different parts of the forest expand your own repertoire. Territorial strategies you've perfected complement her approaches, creating hybrid methods that prove more effective than either original technique. Other species in the forest ecosystem respond to your partnership as well. Birds adjust their flight patterns to account for two coordinated threats instead of one predictable predator. Insects modify their hiding strategies when faced with hunters who can simultaneously attack from multiple angles. Small mammals learn new caution around areas where paired predators might be operating. Your scent marking evolves to reflect your partnership status. The chemical signatures you leave behind now communicate not just your individual presence, but your association with another established adult. Other lizards reading these markers understand immediately that approaching your territory means dealing with two experienced defenders rather than one. The forest as a physical landscape becomes more familiar as your expanded territory encompasses areas you might never have explored alone. Hidden water sources, prime hunting grounds, optimal shelter locations. Your combined knowledge creates a detailed map of resources and opportunities that gives you significant advantages over solitary competitors. Your partnership attracts the attention of larger predators who might have ignored a single lizard. A snake investigating your territory now faces the prospect of two simultaneous threat displays and potential attacks from different angles. Birds of prey must calculate whether the effort required to separate you from your partner is worth the energy expenditure. The cooperation extends beyond hunting and defense to include maintenance of your shared territory. When storms damage preferred perching spots, you work together to clear debris and restore access routes. When seasonal changes affect water sources, you coordinate searches for alternatives. The territory becomes a managed resource rather than simply a claimed space. Your individual growth continues even within the partnership structure. Each successful collaboration teaches you something new about timing, communication, and resource management. Your frill displays become more nuanced as you learn to convey complex information quickly and accurately. Your hunting instincts sharpen through constant practice with a reliable partner. The local hierarchy of lizards reorganizes itself around the reality of established partnerships. Solitary adults must work harder to maintain equivalent territorial holdings. Younger lizards face more complex decisions about whether to seek partners early or establish individual territories first. The social landscape of your species is evolving in real time. Your territory becomes a demonstration site for successful adaptation strategies. Other lizards study your scent markers, patrol patterns, and hunting schedules, trying to understand what makes partnership-based territory management so effective. Some attempt to replicate your methods, while others develop new approaches designed to compete against paired territories. The deep forest gatherings take on new meaning when viewed from your perspective as part of an established pair. You participate not out of desperate need, but from choice, evaluating potential genetic diversity benefits against the stability of your existing relationship. The frantic competition of your first gathering seems almost primitive compared to your current understanding of reproductive strategy. Your partner's individual growth complements your own in ways that strengthen the partnership rather than creating competition between you. Her developing skills in areas where you're less capable expand the team's overall effectiveness. Your improvements in techniques she hasn't mastered create teaching opportunities that benefit both of you. The forest's seasonal changes become more predictable as you learn to read environmental cues through two sets of experienced observations. Weather patterns that might surprise a solitary lizard become manageable challenges when two adults coordinate their preparations. Resource fluctuations that could threaten individual territories become minor adjustments for a well-managed partnership. Your communication systems extend beyond visual displays to include subtle chemical signals, positioning cues, and timing coordination that allow for nearly silent cooperation during hunts and territorial defense. You're developing a level of behavioral synchronization that approaches the coordination seen in social species, despite your fundamentally solitary evolutionary background. The success of your partnership influences the broader ecosystem as your efficient resource utilization affects prey populations, predator behavior, and even plant communities within your territory. You're becoming a significant ecological force rather than simply another individual predator competing for survival resources. Other pairs in the surrounding forest create a network of similar partnerships that begin to interact in complex ways. Territorial boundaries between pairs require different negotiation strategies than those between individuals. Resource sharing agreements become possible when both parties bring equivalent partnership strength to negotiations. Your individual frill displays retain their personal characteristics while incorporating partnership-specific elements that identify you as part of a coordinated team. The combination creates a signature threat posture that other lizards learn to recognize from considerable distances, often preventing conflicts before they can escalate to actual confrontation. The forest floor beneath your expanded territory shows the effects of your coordinated management. Optimal hunting areas are maintained through careful resource harvesting that prevents overexploitation. Water sources remain clean due to coordinated protection efforts. Shelter sites are improved through collaborative maintenance that benefits both partners. Your hunting techniques reach levels of sophistication that would be impossible for solitary predators. Complex ambush strategies, coordinated pursuit patterns, and synchronized strikes allow you to take prey that individual lizards couldn't manage. Your success rate increases dramatically, while your energy expenditure per successful hunt decreases significantly. The partnership affects your individual stress responses in ways that improve your overall health and longevity. Shared vigilance duties allow for more complete rest periods. Coordinated territory defense reduces the frequency of high-intensity confrontations. Resource security, through partnership cooperation, decreases the anxiety associated with survival uncertainty. Your territory becomes a model that influences territorial organization patterns throughout the local forest ecosystem. Other species observe your successful cooperation and modify their own social behaviors accordingly. The ripple effects of your partnership extend far beyond the immediate boundaries of your shared territory. As your partnership matures and your coordinated territory reaches optimal size and resource density, new challenges emerge that will test everything you've learned about cooperation, communication, and shared survival in one of nature's most competitive environments. The challenges arrive with the next dry season, more severe than any you've experienced together. Water sources that have sustained your partnership for months begin to shrink, forcing difficult decisions about resource allocation. Your coordinated hunting grounds become contested territory as other lizards, desperate from their own water shortages, push into areas they would normally avoid. Your partner discovers the first sign of real trouble during a routine patrol. The primary water source at the heart of your territory has dropped to barely a trickle, and the insects that depend on it are already dispersing to find alternatives. The chemical signatures around the diminished pool tell a story of increasing competition, scent marks from lizards you've never encountered before, evidence that your carefully managed ecosystem is attracting desperate outsiders. The first intrusion comes at dawn. A large male, clearly dehydrated and beyond caring about territorial protocols, approaches your water source with the kind of desperation that makes negotiation impossible. Your coordinated threat display, so effective against rational competitors, barely slows his advance. He's operating on pure survival instinct, and your partnership suddenly faces its first real test against an opponent with nothing left to lose. The confrontation escalates faster than any previous territorial dispute. His frill opens to match yours, but there's something different about his display. A frantic intensity that suggests he's already decided this is worth dying for. Your partner flanks him from the left, while you approach from the right, but instead of retreating as most intelligent competitors would, he launches himself directly at the water source, ignoring both of your threat postures. What follows is unlike any territorial battle you've experienced. This isn't about establishing dominance or negotiating boundaries. This is about immediate survival. He fights with reckless abandon, his strikes wild but powerful enough to cause real damage if they connect. Your coordination saves you both as you take turns engaging him while the other recovers, but the energy cost is enormous. You finally drive him off, but not before he manages to drink his fill and contaminate the remaining water with his scent markers. The victory feels hollow because you know he'll be back, and probably with others, just as desperate. Your perfect territory management suddenly seems inadequate against the reality of environmental pressure that pushes other lizards beyond rational behavior. The pattern repeats over the following days. More desperate intruders arrive, each one willing to fight harder than the last for access to your dwindling water supply. Your partnership's greatest strength, coordinated resource management, becomes a liability as other lizards specifically target your territory because they know it contains the resources they need to survive. Your hunting efficiency drops dramatically as you spend more time defending water sources and less time pursuing prey. The insects that remain in your territory are stressed and scattered, making them harder to catch and less nutritious when you do succeed. Your carefully balanced ecosystem is collapsing under pressure from outside forces you can't control through partnership alone. Your partner suggests something unprecedented: territorial expansion during a crisis. Instead of defending your existing boundaries more aggressively, you could absorb adjacent territories whose owners have already abandoned them in search of water. It's risky because expansion during resource scarcity violates every survival instinct you have, but the logic is sound. More territory might contain hidden water sources you haven't discovered yet. The strategy proves partially successful. You do find additional water sources in abandoned territories, but you also inherit the defensive burden of protecting a much larger area with the same partnership resources. Your patrols become longer and more exhausting. Your response time to intrusions increases, and your ability to coordinate complex defenses suffers from the expanded scale of operations. A new type of competitor emerges as the drought intensifies. Other partnerships? Two desperate pairs arrive simultaneously at one of your newly acquired water sources, and suddenly you're facing coordinated opponents for the first time. The tactical situation becomes incredibly complex as four adult lizards engage in displays and counter-displays that test every communication skill you've developed. The resolution comes through negotiation rather than combat, but it establishes a precedent that changes everything about territorial management in your area. Partnerships can share resources during crises if the sharing agreement is clearly defined and mutually beneficial. You find yourself participating in the lizard equivalent of diplomacy, working out time-sharing arrangements for water access that would have been unthinkable during abundant seasons. Your frill displays evolve again to accommodate these complex multi-party negotiations. You need signals that can communicate intentions to your partner while simultaneously addressing the concerns of other partnerships. The visual language becomes more sophisticated as you learn to convey concepts like temporary truce, resource sharing proposal, and coordinated defense against outside threats. The drought ends eventually, but its effects on your territorial community are permanent. The partnerships that survived the crisis have formed loose alliances based on successful resource sharing. Solitary lizards who couldn't adapt to the changed conditions have either died, been driven out, or formed desperate partnerships of their own. The social structure of your species has evolved rapidly under environmental pressure. Your own partnership emerges stronger but fundamentally changed. The crisis taught you that even perfect coordination can't overcome some challenges, but it also revealed capabilities you didn't know you possessed. Your ability to negotiate with other partnerships, manage expanded territories, and adapt quickly to changing conditions has transformed you from successful local predators into something approaching community leaders. The forest around you reflects these changes. Territorial boundaries are more fluid now, with established protocols for emergency resource sharing and coordinated defense against outside threats. The rigid individual territories of your youth have given way to a more complex system where partnerships and alliances can form and dissolve based on environmental conditions and mutual benefit. Your hunting returns to normal efficiency as prey populations recover from the drought stress, but your techniques now include coordination with other partnerships during large prey opportunities. When a bird's nest falls during a storm, multiple pairs can work together to harvest the eggs efficiently rather than fighting over individual portions. The cooperation extends beyond your immediate partnership to include the broader community of surviving pairs. Your scent marking system becomes even more complex as you learn to communicate not just your partnership status and territorial claims, but also your availability for alliance formation and resource sharing agreements. Other lizards reading your chemical signatures can determine your current resource status, partnership stability, and willingness to engage in community cooperation. The seasonal gatherings take on new significance as partnerships and alliances use these occasions to negotiate long-term agreements and exchange territorial information. What once was purely about mating competition becomes also about community organization and resource management planning. Your species is developing social complexity that approaches genuine civilization. Your territory management philosophies shifts from maximum resource extraction to sustainable harvesting that maintains ecosystem stability even during crisis periods. You've learned that short-term territorial gains mean nothing if environmental pressure can destroy your entire resource base. The long-term thinking required for sustainable management becomes part of your daily decision-making process. Your partner's individual development accelerates as the demands of alliance management and complex territorial negotiation require skills neither of you possessed as solitary hunters. Her ability to read other partnerships' intentions and communicate complex proposals through frill displays becomes crucial to your community role. You're both evolving into something your species has never been before. The forest predator community responds to these changes in lizard social organization by developing new hunting strategies designed to exploit partnership coordination. Snakes learn to separate pairs through coordinated attacks from multiple angles. Birds develop tactics for overwhelming alliance defenses through timing and numbers. The evolutionary arms race accelerates as social cooperation meets adaptive countermeasures. Your frill displays reach new levels of complexity as you learn to communicate simultaneously with your partner, allied partnerships, and potential threats. The visual language becomes almost artistic in its sophistication, with subtle variations in color, angle, and timing conveying layered meanings that would be impossible for solitary lizards to interpret or produce. The territory you and your partner manage becomes a demonstration of advanced ecosystem stewardship. Water sources are maintained through coordinated protection that prevents contamination. Hunting areas are harvested on rotation schedules that allow prey population recovery. Shelter sites are improved and expanded to accommodate allied partnerships during emergencies. Your hunting techniques evolve to include not just coordination with your partner, but integration with alliance hunting strategies. Large prey that would challenge even coordinated pairs can be taken through multi-partnership cooperation. Resource sharing agreements allow for specialization, where some pairs focus on hunting while others concentrate on territory defense or water source management. The success of your alliance system influences territorial organization throughout the surrounding forest ecosystem. Other species observe the stability and resource security of lizard partnerships and modify their own social behaviors accordingly. Birds alter their nesting strategies to account for coordinated lizard predation. Small mammals develop new defensive techniques against partnership hunting methods. Your individual growth continues even within the complex alliance structure, as leadership responsibilities require skills you never needed as a simple territorial predator. Decision-making that affects multiple partnerships, resource allocation planning, and conflict resolution between allied pairs all demand cognitive abilities that push your species toward new evolutionary possibilities. The forest's seasonal patterns become more predictable as your alliance's collective observations and resource management create buffer zones against environmental variation. Weather events that might devastate individual territories become manageable challenges for coordinated community response. Resource fluctuations are smoothed through strategic sharing and advanced planning. Your partnership serves as the foundation for increasingly complex social relationships that extend far beyond simple territorial cooperation. Marriage-like bonds between pairs, adoption of orphaned juveniles, and multi-generational territory inheritance create social structures that begin to resemble primitive family systems. Your species is evolving in real time towards social organization patterns unknown in your evolutionary history. The communication systems you and your partner developed for private coordination expand to include community-wide signaling methods that allow rapid information transfer across multiple territories. Predator warnings, resource discoveries, and territorial disputes can be communicated instantly throughout your alliance network, creating security and efficiency advantages that individual lizards cannot match. Your territory becomes a center of innovation as other partnerships visit to observe and learn your management techniques. Teaching relationships develop where experienced pairs like yours mentor newer partnerships in advanced coordination methods. Knowledge transfer accelerates the development of community-wide capabilities that benefit everyone in the alliance system. The deep forest gatherings transform from simple mating competitions into complex social events where alliances negotiate long-term agreements, partnerships exchange territorial information, and community-wide decisions are made about resource management and defense coordination. Your species' social evolution accelerates dramatically as these gatherings become genuine political assemblies. Your frill displays become recognized throughout the broader forest community as indicators of advanced partnership development and alliance leadership capability. Other lizards identify you from considerable distances based on the sophistication of your visual communication systems. Your reputation extends far beyond your territorial boundaries to influence community organization patterns across multiple forest regions. As your partnership matures within this complex alliance system and your territorial management becomes a model for sustainable resource stewardship, new challenges emerge that will test everything your species has learned about cooperation, communication, and collective survival in an environment where individual predation has given way to community-based ecosystem management. The challenges intensify when human activity begins affecting your forest in ways none of your evolutionary adaptations prepared you for. The first sign appears as strange scents carried on the wind, chemical signatures, unlike anything in your species' experience. Your alliance's sophisticated communication network spreads the information quickly, but interpreting these alien markers proves impossible using traditional territorial assessment methods. The source becomes clear when massive machines appear at the forest's eastern edge, clearing vegetation with efficiency that dwarfs even the most destructive natural disasters. Trees that have anchored territorial boundaries for generations disappear in hours. Water sources that supported multiple partnerships are buried under debris or contaminated with runoff from the cleared areas. The entire foundation of your alliance system faces unprecedented disruption. Your partnership's territory lies far enough from the immediate destruction to remain physically intact, but the ecological effects ripple through your carefully managed ecosystem almost immediately. Prey species fleeing the cleared areas flood into your hunting grounds, creating temporary abundance, followed by rapid resource depletion as the immigrant populations consume available food sources faster than they can regenerate. Refugee lizards arrive constantly now, displaced from destroyed territories and seeking temporary shelter within your alliance system. Some are individuals whose partnerships dissolved under the stress of losing everything they'd built together. Others are entire pairs whose coordinated territorial management couldn't adapt quickly enough to the pace of environmental change. Your alliance faces difficult decisions about resource allocation and territorial expansion to accommodate desperate newcomers. The traditional territorial protocols prove inadequate for managing this crisis. Your alliance's strength has always been based on sustainable resource management within stable boundaries, but sustainability becomes meaningless when the environment itself is being fundamentally altered faster than ecosystems can adapt. Emergency protocols developed during the drought seem primitive compared to the challenges of permanent habitat destruction. Your partner suggests something that challenges every territorial instinct your species possesses: retreat. Not temporary withdrawal during crisis, but permanent abandonment of territories that may soon be uninhabitable. The idea violates everything you've learned about successful territorial management, but the alternative might be staying to defend resources that will no longer exist within seasons. The Alliance convenes unprecedented emergency gatherings to address the human threat. These assemblies make the seasonal mating competitions seem simple by comparison, as dozens of partnerships attempt to coordinate response strategies for challenges they don't fully understand. Your species' newly developed diplomatic capabilities face their ultimate test in negotiations that could determine survival for entire communities. Some partnerships advocate aggressive defense of existing territories, regardless of the human threat's scale. Their position emphasizes the territorial imperative that has driven your species' success for countless generations. Others argue for immediate strategic retreat to forest regions that might remain unaffected. A few suggest attempting to adapt to the changed environment by modifying traditional hunting and territorial behaviors. Your own partnership finds itself in an unexpected leadership role as other alliances look to your successful territorial management for guidance during the crisis. The responsibility weighs heavily as you realize that decisions you make could influence survival strategies for lizards throughout the forest ecosystem. Your individual partnership has become part of something much larger and more complex than you ever anticipated. The human activity accelerates, and your alliance's information network reports destruction, spreading deeper into the forest daily. Water sources that supported multiple partnerships are eliminated without regard for the complex territorial agreements built around them. Hunting grounds that took seasons to develop are cleared in hours, their prey populations scattered or destroyed entirely. Your frill displays evolve again to accommodate the need for communicating concepts your species has never needed to express before: permanent habitat loss, coordinated retreat, resource refugees, and environmental threat beyond territorial response capability. The visual language becomes more abstract as you struggle to convey ideas that have no precedent in lizard experience. The first partnership casualties occur when a pair attempts to defend their territory against human machinery. Their coordinated threat displays, so effective against natural predators and competing lizards, prove completely meaningless against operators who don't recognize or respond to lizard communication. The partnership is separated during the chaos of habitat clearing, and neither individual is seen again. Your alliance's emergency protocols expand to include evacuation procedures and refugee integration strategies that strain your communication systems to their limits. Coordinating the movement of multiple partnerships while maintaining defensive capabilities and resource-sharing agreements requires organizational sophistication that pushes your species toward social complexity levels unknown in your evolutionary history. The retreat begins with scouting expeditions to identify potential new territories deep enough in the forest to avoid immediate human impact. Your partnership volunteers for these dangerous reconnaissance missions, using your advanced coordination capabilities to gather information while minimizing exposure to the unknown threats that might exist in unexplored forest regions. The deep forest proves both more challenging and more promising than expected. Ancient trees create canopy systems more complex than anything in your previous experience, offering hunting and shelter opportunities that could support expanded alliance populations. But the ecosystem is also more competitive, with established predators and territorial holders who view arriving refugees as invasive threats to their own survival. Your partnership's diplomatic skills become crucial as you negotiate with deep forest residents for peaceful passage and potential territorial sharing agreements. These negotiations require understanding social systems that developed independently from your alliance structure, with different communication protocols and resource management philosophies that challenge your assumptions about lizard behavior. The integration proves partially successful, but not without costs. Some alliance partnerships adapt successfully to deep forest conditions and establish sustainable new territories. Others struggle with the changed environment and gradually dissolve as individuals pursue solitary survival strategies. The social cohesion that defined your alliance system faces severe testing under the stress of major habitat displacement. Your own partnership adapts more successfully than most, partly due to your experience with crisis management during the drought, and partly because Your coordination skills translate well to the different challenges of deep forest survival. Your territory establishment techniques work even better in the more complex canopy environment, and your hunting methods adapt quickly to the different prey species available. But success brings new responsibilities, as your partnership again finds itself in a leadership role within the reformed alliance structure. The refugee integration process requires constant negotiation with established deep forest residents, coordination of resource sharing among displaced partnerships, and development of new territorial protocols adapted to the changed environment. Your scent marking system becomes even more complex as you learn to communicate not just with other refugee partnerships, but also with established deep forest lizards whose chemical signatures follow different conventions. The integration of communication systems requires developing hybrid protocols that allow information transfer between groups with different social evolution histories. The forest's deeper regions reveal ecological relationships more complex than anything in your previous experience. Predator-prey dynamics involve species you've never encountered. Territorial boundaries follow different principles than those you learned as juveniles, and resource distribution patterns require new approaches to sustainable harvesting and territory management. Your hunting techniques undergo another evolution as you learn to coordinate not just with your partner, but also with established deep forest hunters whose methods differ significantly from alliance approaches. The integration of hunting strategies creates hybrid techniques that prove more effective than either original approach, demonstrating the adaptive advantages of cultural exchange between lizard communities. The alliance system gradually reconstructs itself in the deep forest environment, but with significant modifications that reflect both the lessons learned from habitat displacement and the influence of interaction with established forest residents. Your species' social evolution accelerates as different lizard communities merge their organizational innovations into more sophisticated cooperative systems. Your partnership serves as a bridge between refugee alliance members and established deep forest residents, using your diplomatic experience to facilitate integration processes that benefit both communities. The mediation role requires skills you never anticipated needing as a simple territorial predator, but the success of these negotiations determines survival prospects for multiple partnerships. The territorial management philosophy that emerged from your alliance experience adapts to deep forest conditions by incorporating sustainable harvesting techniques developed by long-term residents with resource-sharing protocols refined during refugee integration. The hybrid approach proves more resilient than either original system, creating buffer zones against future environmental disruptions. Your frill displays reach unprecedented complexity as you learn to communicate simultaneously with your partner, refugee alliance members, established forest residents, and potential threats using visual signals that incorporate elements from multiple lizard communication traditions. The synthesis creates a more sophisticated language than any individual community could develop in isolation. As your partnership establishes itself within this complex multi-community ecosystem, and your territorial management becomes a model for successful adaptation to environmental disruption, new challenges emerge that will test everything your species has learned about cooperation, communication, and collective resilience in a world where traditional survival strategies must evolve rapidly to meet unprecedented threats. The deep forest community that emerges around your partnership becomes something unprecedented in your species' history. What started as refugee integration evolves into a genuine inter-community civilization where different lizard traditions merge into hybrid systems more sophisticated than anything your ancestors could have imagined. Your territory serves as a testing ground for innovations that spread throughout the broader forest ecosystem. Your hunting methods reach new levels of complexity as you coordinate not just with your partner, but with multiple community members whose different backgrounds contribute unique techniques to shared efforts. A prey animal that escapes your initial strike might run directly into the waiting ambush of a deep forest resident whose hunting style complements your alliance developed approaches perfectly. The communication systems become truly remarkable as your species develops what can only be called a universal lizard language. Frill displays that once conveyed simple, territorial messages now carry complex information about resource availability, weather patterns, predator movements, and community decisions that affect dozens of partnerships across multiple forest regions. Your partnership's reputation spreads beyond the immediate forest community as news of successful integration and hybrid territorial management reaches lizards in distant regions. Delegations arrive from other forest areas seeking to learn your techniques for environmental adaptation and multi-community cooperation. Your territory becomes a diplomatic center where different lizard cultures exchange innovations. The seasonal gatherings transform into genuine political assemblies where representatives from multiple communities negotiate agreements that affect resource management across vast forest regions. Your partnership often serves as mediators in these complex negotiations, using your experience with crisis adaptation and inter-community diplomacy to resolve conflicts between groups with very different territorial traditions. Your individual development continues within this complex social framework as leadership responsibilities require cognitive abilities that push the boundaries of what lizards have ever achieved. Strategic planning that accounts for multiple community needs, resource allocation across different territorial management systems, and conflict resolution between groups with incompatible traditions all demand mental flexibility that represents genuine evolutionary advancement. The territory you and your partner manage becomes a showcase of advanced ecosystem stewardship that incorporates sustainable harvesting techniques from multiple lizard traditions with innovative approaches developed specifically for multi-community resource sharing. Other partnerships study your methods, creating a knowledge transfer system that accelerates community-wide capability development. Your frill displays become recognized throughout the broader forest network as indicators of advanced diplomatic capability and inter-community leadership potential. The visual signals you've developed incorporate elements from different lizard communication traditions, creating a synthesis that allows for more precise and nuanced information transfer than any individual community's system could achieve. But the most significant development is the emergence of what can only be described as lizard culture. Stories about successful territorial adaptations spread between communities through demonstration and imitation. Innovations in hunting techniques, threat assessment, and resource management propagate across forest regions faster than individual lizards could travel. Knowledge accumulation and transfer accelerate beyond anything possible through purely instinctual learning. Your partnership becomes part of a knowledge preservation system where successful techniques are taught to younger partnerships through formal mentoring relationships that extend far beyond simple territorial apprenticeship. The teaching interactions develop into genuine educational systems where experienced pairs systematically transfer complex skills to newcomers seeking to establish their own territories. The forest ecosystem responds to these changes in lizard social organization by developing new equilibrium points that account for coordinated predation, systematic resource management, and inter-community cooperation. Prey species adapt to face coordinated hunting strategies. Predators learn to counter alliance defense systems. Plant communities adjust to more sophisticated harvesting patterns that maintain sustainable population levels. Your territory management philosophy evolves to encompass not just immediate resource needs, but long-term ecosystem health that supports sustainable lizard civilization across multiple generations. The planning horizon extends far beyond individual partnership lifespans to consider how current decisions will affect forest community viability decades into the future. The human threat that originally drove your species toward advanced cooperation continues to influence development patterns as lizard communities maintain sophisticated early warning systems and emergency response protocols designed to handle environmental disruptions that exceed traditional territorial management capabilities. Your species has learned to plan for catastrophic change rather than simply react to immediate crises. Your partnership's diplomatic skills become crucial for managing increasingly complex relationships between lizard communities that have developed different approaches to environmental adaptation and resource management. The mediation role requires understanding multiple cultural systems and translating between different territorial management philosophies to find mutually beneficial solutions. The alliance system that emerged from refugee integration continues evolving as successful partnerships establish new territories throughout the deep forest regions and maintain communication networks that allow for rapid information transfer and coordinated response to threats or opportunities that affect multiple communities simultaneously. Your hunting efficiency reaches levels that would be impossible for traditional solitary predators as you coordinate not just with your partner, but with community networks that can provide real-time information about prey movements, predator locations, and resource availability across forest regions, much larger than any individual territory could encompass. The forest's seasonal patterns become more predictable as your community's collective observations and coordinated resource management create buffer zones against environmental variation that protect not just individual partnerships, but entire networks of interdependent territories whose combined stability exceeds what any isolated community could achieve. Your species' social evolution accelerates dramatically as successful innovations spread rapidly through inter-community networks, while failed approaches are abandoned quickly based on shared knowledge rather than repeated individual trial and error. The collective learning process drives capability development faster than natural selection alone could achieve. Your frill displays reach artistic levels of sophistication as you learn to convey complex abstract concepts through visual signals that incorporate color variations, timing patterns, and movement sequences. Sophisticated enough to communicate detailed information about resource management strategies, diplomatic agreements, and long-term planning decisions that affect multiple partnerships across extended time periods. The territory you and your partner established becomes a demonstration site for advanced lizard civilization where visitors from distant forest regions can observe techniques for sustainable ecosystem management, inter-community cooperation, and environmental adaptation that represent the cutting edge of your species' evolutionary development. Your partnership serves as a model for successful adaptation to environmental change that proves lizard intelligence and social cooperation can overcome challenges that would devastate less organized communities. The success influences lizard territorial organization patterns throughout forest ecosystems far beyond your immediate region as news of effective adaptation strategies spreads through inter-community communication networks. As your partnership matures within this complex multi-community civilization, and your territorial management becomes a template for sustainable resource stewardship that supports lizard society across multiple forest regions, you face the ultimate challenge of ensuring that everything your species has learned about cooperation, communication, and collective survival can be preserved and transmitted to future generations who will inherit a world fundamentally different from the one where your journey began. The preservation challenge becomes urgent as you realize that the knowledge accumulated through crisis adaptation and inter-community cooperation exists primarily in the memories and practiced behaviors of individual partnerships, rather than in any permanent form that could survive the loss of key community members. Your species has developed sophisticated culture, but lacks reliable methods for transferring complex knowledge across generations. Your partnership begins experimenting with techniques for teaching advanced territorial management and diplomatic skills to younger lizards who lack direct experience with the environmental crises and social evolution that drove innovation in your generation. The teaching process reveals how much of your community's success depends on hard-won experience that cannot be easily communicated through traditional demonstration methods. The younger partnerships show impressive ability to learn basic coordination and resource sharing techniques, but they struggle with the complex decision-making and adaptive flexibility required for crisis management and inter-community diplomacy. Their frill displays lack the nuanced variations needed for sophisticated communication, and their territorial management approaches remain focused on immediate needs rather than long-term sustainability planning. Your community develops formal apprenticeship systems where experienced partnerships take responsibility for mentoring newer pairs through progressively more complex challenges that simulate the crisis conditions that drove your generation's innovations. These training relationships become institutionalized as community-wide educational programs that ensure critical knowledge transfer across generational boundaries. The forest around your territory becomes a living laboratory where different approaches to lizard civilization are tested and refined through controlled experiments that allow community members to evaluate innovations without risking catastrophic failure during actual emergencies. Your species develops something approaching scientific method as systematic knowledge accumulation and testing procedures. Your partnership's role evolves from active territorial management toward advisory positions, where your experience with crisis adaptation and inter-community cooperation guides community decision-making without requiring direct involvement in every operational detail. The transition allows for continued contribution while creating space for younger partnerships to develop their own leadership capabilities. The forest's ecosystem reaches new equilibrium points as multiple lizard communities achieve sustainable population levels supported by advanced resource management techniques that maintain prey species diversity while providing adequate nutrition for expanded lizard populations. The success demonstrates that intelligence and cooperation can overcome traditional ecological limitations. Your territory management legacy influences forest community organization for generations as successful techniques developed through your partnership's innovations become standard practices taught to all new partnerships entering the community system. The knowledge preservation ensures that hard-won adaptations survive beyond the individual lizards who originally developed them. The human threat that originally drove your species' social evolution continues influencing development patterns as lizard communities maintain sophisticated monitoring systems and rapid response capabilities designed to detect and adapt to environmental changes before they become catastrophic. Your species has learned to anticipate and prepare for disruption rather than merely surviving it. Your frill displays achieve legendary status within lizard cultural traditions as examples of communication sophistication that younger generations study and attempt to replicate. The visual language you developed becomes part of educational curricula that ensure future lizards can access the full range of expression needed for complex community coordination and diplomatic negotiation. The alliance networks that emerged from your generation's crisis responses continue expanding as successful communities establish new territories throughout forest regions previously unexplored by lizards, spreading advanced cooperation techniques and sustainable resource management practices to ecosystems that benefit from intelligent predator management. Your partnership becomes a symbol of successful adaptation that inspires younger lizards to pursue advanced cooperation and territorial innovation rather than settling for traditional solitary survival strategies. The cultural influence extends far beyond direct teaching relationships to affect community-wide attitudes about what lizards can achieve through coordinated effort. The forest's carrying capacity for lizard populations increases dramatically as advanced hunting techniques, sustainable harvesting practices, and coordinated resource management allow ecosystems to support larger predator populations while maintaining healthy prey, species diversity, and overall environmental stability. Your species' cognitive development accelerates as complex social interactions and sophisticated resource management requirements drive individual lizards toward higher levels of problem-solving ability, strategic thinking, and adaptive flexibility that represent genuine evolutionary advancement beyond traditional reptilian capabilities. The territory you established with your partner becomes a historical site where future generations of lizards can observe the physical evidence of successful environmental adaptation and community cooperation that transformed your species from simple territorial predators into intelligent ecosystem managers capable of sustainable civilization. Your hunting techniques reach theoretical limits of efficiency as coordination with community networks provides access to information and resources that allow for prey capture success rates approaching 100% while maintaining sustainable predation levels that ensure long-term prey population stability across forest regions. The deep forest regions that provided refuge during the initial human threat crisis develop into thriving centers of lizard civilization where multiple communities interact through sophisticated trade relationships, knowledge exchange programs, and coordinated resource management agreements that create prosperity levels unknown in traditional territorial systems. Your partnership's diplomatic innovations become standard protocols for inter-community negotiations, as successful conflict resolution techniques, developed through your experience with crisis mediation, are adopted by lizard communities throughout forest ecosystems where complex territorial boundaries require continuous negotiation and adjustment. The seasonal gathering traditions evolve into comprehensive community assemblies where representatives from dozens of partnerships coordinate resource management policies, share technological innovations, and make collective decisions about forest ecosystem stewardship that affect environmental conditions across vast geographic regions. Suits your frill display techniques influence artistic traditions that emerge within lizard communities. As visual communication sophistication reaches levels where aesthetic considerations become important alongside purely functional information transfer requirements. Your species develops appreciation for beauty in addition to practical communication needs. As your partnership's legacy becomes permanently embedded in lizard cultural traditions and your territorial management innovations transform forest ecosystems throughout multiple regions, you face the final challenge of ensuring that the civilization your generation built can survive and continue evolving long after the individual partnerships that created it have completed their own life cycles in the endless rhythm of forest succession. The forest cycles continue their ancient rhythm, but you've become something more than just another predator counting seasons. Your body shows the accumulated wear of years spent building, defending, adapting, and leading. The scars along your flanks tell stories of territorial battles, crisis management, and diplomatic negotiations that shaped not just your own survival, but the evolution of an entire species. Your frill, now magnificent in its full development, carries the weight of cultural significance that extends far beyond personal threat displays. Your partnership has endured through environmental catastrophes, social upheavals, and the gradual transformation of your species from solitary hunters into collaborative ecosystem managers. The territory you share represents decades of sustainable development, crisis adaptation, and knowledge accumulation that younger partnerships study as examples of what lizard civilization can achieve through coordinated effort and long-term thinking. But age brings new challenges that no amount of cooperation or intelligence can completely overcome. Your reflexes aren't quite as sharp as they once were. Your stamina during extended hunts decreases gradually but noticeably. The complex negotiations that once energized you now require more effort to maintain focus and recall the intricate details of intercommunity agreements that affect dozens of partnerships across multiple forest regions. Your partner experiences similar changes, though her adaptation follows different patterns that complement rather than mirror your own adjustments to aging. Her territorial patrol routes become more efficient, conserving energy while maintaining security through strategic positioning rather than extensive coverage. Her hunting techniques rely increasingly on experience and timing rather than pure speed and agility. Together, you compensate for individual limitations through enhanced coordination that makes your partnership more effective than ever despite physical decline. The younger partnerships in your community show appropriate respect for your experience while gradually assuming more active roles in day-to-day territorial management and inter-community diplomacy. The transition feels natural rather than forced as your advisory contributions become more valuable than your direct operational involvement. Your knowledge guides community decisions, while fresh energy handles implementation details. Your territory serves increasingly as a teaching laboratory, where advanced techniques developed over decades of innovation are demonstrated to apprentice partnerships seeking to master sustainable resource management and sophisticated cooperation methods. The steady stream of visiting students creates a living archive of practical knowledge that ensures your generation's hard-won innovations survive in active practice rather than mere cultural memory. The forest ecosystem around your territory reflects the cumulative impact of decades of intelligent management as prey species populations stabilize at optimal levels. Water sources remain clean and abundant, and shelter sites multiply through systematic improvement projects. Your section of forest demonstrates what becomes possible when predators evolve beyond simple resource extraction toward genuine ecosystem stewardship. Your frill displays evolve once more as you develop techniques for conveying complex historical and philosophical concepts to younger lizards who lack direct experience with the environmental crises and social evolution that drove your generation's innovations. These teaching displays become recognized throughout lizard communities as masterworks of visual communication that preserve cultural knowledge in forms accessible to future generations. The alliance networks that emerged from your crisis, responses continue expanding and evolving as new challenges require fresh adaptations of established cooperation principles. Your partnership's early innovations in resource sharing and coordinated defense become foundational elements of lizard civilization, but each generation adds refinements and modifications that keep the systems dynamic and responsive to changing conditions. Your hunting activities gradually shift from active predation toward strategic coordination that maximizes community efficiency while minimizing individual energy expenditure. Your role becomes more about optimizing collective resource acquisition than personal prey capture, reflecting the transition from individual survival toward community leadership that characterizes successful aging in highly social species. The human activities that originally threatened your forest habitat continue evolving in ways that require constant adaptation of community response strategies. Your generation's crisis management innovations provide frameworks for addressing new environmental challenges, but each situation demands creative application of established principles rather than simple repetition of previous solutions. The learning never stops. Your territory management philosophy reaches its final evolution as you focus increasingly on ensuring long-term ecosystem stability that will support lizard communities for generations beyond your own lifespan. Every decision considers not just immediate benefits, but cumulative effects across time scales that extend far beyond individual partnership duration. You're managing for permanence rather than temporary advantage. The seasonal gatherings become opportunities for you to serve as a living repository of institutional memory, sharing stories and insights that help younger partnerships understand how current community structures developed from earlier, simpler forms of cooperation. Your presence provides continuity that helps maintain cultural coherence across generational transitions that might otherwise fragment accumulated knowledge. Your partnership's legendary status within lizard cultural traditions creates responsibilities for modeling successful aging and graceful transition from active leadership to advisory roles that support community continuity without blocking innovation from younger generations. The balance requires wisdom that goes beyond territorial management toward genuine understanding of social dynamics and cultural evolution. The forest's carrying capacity continues increasing as multiple generations of lizards apply and refine sustainable resource management techniques that maintain ecological balance while supporting unprecedented predator population densities. Your species has achieved something approaching true civilization, where intelligence and cooperation overcome traditional biological limitations on community size and complexity. Your individual development reaches its final phase as accumulated experience synthesizes into wisdom that encompasses not just practical knowledge about hunting and territorial management, but deep understanding of the principles underlying successful cooperation, environmental adaptation, and cultural transmission that ensure community survival across generations and environmental changes. The territory you established decades ago becomes a historical landmark where future generations can observe the physical evidence of successful adaptation and innovation that transformed lizard society from simple predation toward intelligent ecosystem management. The landscape itself tells the story of your species' evolution from individual survival toward collective prosperity. Your hunting techniques achieve their ultimate refinement as decades of practice and coordination create efficiency levels that approach theoretical maximums while maintaining sustainable predation pressure that ensures long term prey population stability. Every strike represents the culmination of lifetime learning applied through partnership coordination perfected across years of shared experience. The deep forest regions that provided refuge during environmental crises develop into permanent centers of advanced lizard civilization where your generation's innovations become standard practices that support thriving communities engaged in sophisticated resource management, cultural development, and interregional cooperation that would have been impossible under traditional territorial systems. Your partnership's diplomatic achievements become part of lizard cultural mythology, as stories about successful crisis mediation and inter-community cooperation inspire younger generations while providing practical examples of conflict resolution techniques that maintain community cohesion despite disagreements over resource allocation and territorial boundaries. The communication systems you help develop reach their mature form as standardized protocols that allow efficient information transfer between lizard communities across vast forest regions while maintaining flexibility for local adaptation and cultural variation. The universal language enables coordination on scales that transform entire ecosystems through intelligent predator management. Your frill displays achieve artistic perfection as aesthetic considerations become as important as functional communication requirements in visual signals that convey complex information while demonstrating the beauty possible when intelligence and cooperation reach their highest expression. Your species has developed genuine appreciation for elegance in addition to practical effectiveness. As your life approaches its natural conclusion within the civilization your generation created, you face the final satisfaction of knowing that everything you learned about cooperation, adaptation, and sustainable resource management has been successfully transmitted to communities that will continue evolving and improving long after your individual contribution ends. Your legacy lives in the forest itself, transformed into something more beautiful and sustainable than anything your ancestors could have imagined. The morning light filters through the canopy you've known for so many years, illuminating the territory that represents a lifetime of partnership, innovation, and community building. Your body moves more slowly now, but your mind remains sharp, filled with memories of transformation that changed not just your own survival prospects, but the entire trajectory of your species' evolution toward intelligence, cooperation, and genuine civilization in the ancient rhythm of the forest. The forest around you pulses with life, but something feels different this morning. Your movements are deliberate, careful, as if your body knows something your mind hasn't fully accepted yet. The territory that has been your world for so long stretches out before you, every branch and shadow mapped in your memory like a detailed blueprint of home. Your partner notices the change before you do. Her movements become more attentive, staying closer during patrols, her frill flickering with subtle concern, signals that have become part of your private language over the years. She doesn't need to communicate directly what you both understand. Time is becoming precious in ways it never was when you were younger. The morning hunt feels heavier somehow. Your strike at a passing cricket connects perfectly, muscle memory guiding the motion, even as your reflexes slow fractionally from their peak. The insect disappears with the efficiency of decades of practice, but the effort leaves you more tired than it should. Your partner compensates seamlessly, positioning herself to cover angles your reduced mobility can't reach as effectively as before. Young partnerships continue visiting your territory, drawn by stories of your innovations and seeking guidance for their own challenges. Their energy reminds you of your early days when every territorial dispute felt like a life or death struggle and every successful hunt was a triumph worth celebrating. Now their enthusiasm feels both inspiring and exhausting as you realize how much knowledge you carry that younger generations still need to learn. The community gatherings require more effort to attend, but your presence remains important for maintaining cultural continuity. Your frill displays, though less physically demanding than in your prime, carry authority earned through decades of successful leadership and crisis management. Younger lizards listen when you communicate, understanding that your signals carry the weight of experience they haven't yet accumulated. Your territory management becomes more strategic as physical limitations require smarter rather than harder approaches to resource stewardship. The sustainable practices you developed over years of trial and refinement now operate almost automatically, creating abundance through intelligent planning rather than intensive effort. The forest responds to your accumulated wisdom with steady productivity that supports not just your partnership, but the broader community network you helped create. The alliance systems continue evolving beyond your direct involvement, but the foundational principles you helped establish guide their development toward ever greater sophistication. Resource sharing protocols, diplomatic frameworks, and crisis response procedures all bear traces of innovations your partnership contributed during the formative years of lizard civilization. Your influence persists even as active participation decreases. Your hunting efficiency remains high despite physical changes, because experience compensates for reduced speed and agility. Every movement serves multiple purposes. Every position offers strategic advantages developed through years of practice. Your partner's complementary skills create a coordination system that maximizes effectiveness while minimizing energy expenditure, proving that wisdom can triumph over pure physical capability. The forest's seasonal rhythms feel more profound now, as if you're experiencing them from a deeper perspective that encompasses not just immediate survival needs, but the long-term cycles that govern ecosystem health across generations. Your decision-making horizon extends far beyond your own lifespan to consider how current choices will affect community prosperity decades into the future. Your frill displays achieve their most refined expression as physical power gives way to artistic subtlety. The visual language you helped develop reaches levels of sophistication where micro-expressions convey complex concepts with efficiency that younger lizards struggle to match. Your communications become teaching tools that demonstrate possibilities for lizard expression that inspire continued cultural development. The deep forest regions you helped settle during the human crisis have evolved into thriving centers of advanced civilization where multiple communities interact through protocols your generation established. Trade relationships, knowledge exchange programs, and coordinated resource management all reflect innovations that emerged from the challenges you helped overcome through partnership cooperation and adaptive thinking. Your individual development reaches its final phase as accumulated knowledge crystallizes into wisdom that transcends specific techniques or territorial strategies. You understand now the underlying principles that govern successful cooperation, environmental adaptation, and cultural transmission, insights that can guide community decisions across situations you never directly experienced, but can anticipate through pattern recognition developed over decades of problem solving. The territory you share with your partner becomes a living monument to successful adaptation and innovation. Every improvement, every sustainable practice, every elegant solution to resource management challenges represents years of collaborative effort that transformed a simple hunting ground into a demonstration site for advanced lizard civilization. Future generations will study your methods long after you're gone. Your partnership's legacy extends beyond territorial management to encompass the social innovations that enabled lizard communities to evolve from competitive individualism toward genuine cooperation. The diplomatic techniques, resource sharing protocols, and conflict resolution methods you developed during crisis situations became foundational elements of inter-community relations that support peaceful coexistence across vast forest regions. The communication systems you helped refine continue spreading to lizard communities far beyond your immediate region as successful techniques propagate through cultural networks that span multiple forest ecosystems. Your contribution to visual language development influences how entire populations coordinate complex activities and maintain social cohesion despite geographic separation and environmental challenges. Your hunting legacy lives in the techniques passed down through formal apprenticeship programs, where experienced partnerships train younger pairs in advanced coordination methods. The efficiency gains achieved through decades of practice become standard capabilities for new generations who build upon your innovations to develop even more sophisticated approaches to sustainable predation and ecosystem management. The forest's transformation under intelligent lizard management stands as testament to what becomes possible when individual survival instincts evolve toward collective stewardship. Prey populations stabilize at optimal levels, water sources remain pristine, shelter sites multiply through systematic improvement, all reflecting principles you helped establish during the early development of lizard environmental management practices. Your species' cognitive evolution accelerates as complex social interactions and sophisticated resource management requirements continue driving individual lizards toward higher levels of problem-solving ability and strategic thinking. The intellectual challenges your generation overcame created selective pressure for enhanced intelligence that benefits every subsequent generation through genetic and cultural inheritance. The seasonal gatherings reach unprecedented sophistication as your generation's innovations in diplomatic protocols and community coordination enable hundreds of partnerships to negotiate complex agreements affecting resource management across multiple forest regions. These assemblies represent the highest expression of lizard political development, guided by principles your partnership helped establish during formative crisis periods. Your territory management philosophy influences forest community organization patterns that extend far beyond your immediate region as successful techniques spread through inter-community networks. Sustainable harvesting practices, coordinated defense strategies, and long-term ecosystem planning all reflect approaches you pioneered during your partnership's most innovative period of development. The alliance structures that emerged from refugee integration during environmental crisis continue providing frameworks for community cooperation that support lizard populations far exceeding traditional territorial carrying capacity. Your generation's breakthrough insights about resource sharing and coordinated survival enable prosperity levels that transform entire forest ecosystems through intelligent predator management. As your individual contribution transitions from active leadership toward cultural preservation, you face the satisfaction of knowing that everything you learned about cooperation, adaptation, and sustainable resource management has been successfully embedded in community structures that will continue evolving long after your personal involvement ends. Your legacy lives in the forest itself, permanently transformed through decades of partnership, innovation, and collaborative stewardship. The ancient rhythms of the forest continue their endless cycle, but you've helped ensure that your species' participation in those rhythms reflects intelligence, cooperation, and genuine care for long-term ecosystem health rather than simple predatory exploitation. Your life's work represents evolution in its most profound sense, not just biological change, but conscious improvement towards sustainability, beauty, and collective prosperity in the timeless dance of survival and growth. The sun climbs higher through the canopy, casting familiar patterns of light and shadow across the territory you've called home for so long. Your breathing becomes more labored, each movement requiring conscious effort that once came automatically. Your partner remains close, her presence a constant comfort as your body finally begins to surrender to the accumulated weight of years spent building, defending, and leading. The forest around you continues its eternal dance of life and death, predator and prey, growth and decay. But something fundamental has changed. Where once there were only individual lizards competing desperately for survival, now there are communities working together, sharing resources, planning for futures that extend beyond single lifespans. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It took generations of crisis, adaptation, and gradual learning. But it happened, and you were part of it. Your frill opens one last time, not in threat or display, but in something that resembles satisfaction. The skin spreads wide, revealing colors that have told countless stories, territorial victories, mating competitions, diplomatic negotiations, crisis management, community building. Each pattern represents lessons learned, challenges overcome, innovations developed. Your life has been more than survival. It has been evolution in real time. The territory you leave behind pulses with sustainable abundance. Water sources flow clean and steady. Prey populations maintain healthy diversity. Shelter sites multiply through decades of careful improvement. But most importantly, the knowledge lives on. Younger partnerships patrol these boundaries now, using techniques you pioneered, solving problems with methods you developed, communicating through visual languages you helped refine. The forest itself has become a living library of lizard civilization. Your partner's frill flickers with signals you've shared for years: gratitude, affection, understanding. She will continue the work after you're gone, training new generations, maintaining the alliances, preserving the innovations. The partnership structure you built together will outlast any individual lizard because it's become part of something larger than either of you ever imagined when you first met on that contested branch so many seasons ago. The community networks stretch far beyond your immediate territory now, connecting lizard populations across vast forest regions through protocols you helped establish. Resource sharing agreements, diplomatic frameworks, crisis response procedures, educational systems, all bear the influence of your partnership's contributions to species development. You've helped write the blueprint for lizard society. As your vision begins to fade and your breathing grows shallow, you understand something profound about the nature of survival itself. Individual lizards live and die, but communities endure. Knowledge accumulates across generations. Wisdom builds upon wisdom. The forest that seemed so hostile and competitive when you first emerged from your burrow has become home to something approaching genuine civilization, where intelligence and cooperation triumph over mere instinct and aggression. Your last moments bring not fear but profound satisfaction. You've lived to see your species evolve beyond anything your ancestors could have imagined. From desperate hatchlings fighting for survival to sophisticated communities managing entire ecosystems, the transformation represents hope for what's possible when creatures learn to work together rather than merely compete against each other. The forest's ancient rhythms continue unchanged, but your species' participation in those rhythms has been forever altered. Where there was once only individual predation, there is now community stewardship. Where there was once only territorial competition, there is now resource sharing and mutual aid. Where there was once only survival, there is now the possibility of genuine prosperity for all. Your body grows still as the morning light filters through leaves that have witnessed the entire arc of your extraordinary life, from vulnerable hatchling to territorial predator to partnership, pioneer to community leader to cultural preservationist. You've lived multiple lifetimes within a single existence, each phase building towards something greater than the sum of its parts. But your story doesn't end here. It continues in every young partnership that learns advanced coordination techniques, every alliance that shares resources during crisis, every community that chooses cooperation over competition. The civilization you helped build will face new challenges, develop fresh innovations, and continue evolving toward possibilities none of you could foresee. That's the true measure of success, not just surviving, but creating something that makes survival possible for countless others. Life as a frilled lizard might start rough, but as you've seen, it doesn't have to end that way. Through intelligence, cooperation, and the courage to try something different, even the most solitary species can discover the power of working together. Your forest is living proof that evolution isn't just about individual fitness. It's about collective wisdom, shared prosperity, and the endless potential for life to become more beautiful, more sustainable, and more meaningful than mere survival could ever be. Here you can find the next video. Until then, see you soon.